So I recently watched the first season of Iron Fist, and even though I didn't despise it like a lot of critics seem to, it was a pretty average series with a lot of problems. And a lot of those problems stem from its story. So without further ado, let's get into 5 ways to punch up that Iron Fist script. 1. They need to spend way less time doubting Danny and who he is at the beginning. I mean, in those first few episodes, he is frustratingly naive when he's trying to explain who he is. He's telling everyone in New York that he's raised by magic monks in a different dimension, where he had to fight a dragon to get the power of the Iron Fist. I'm sorry, but if someone came up to you in the street saying that kind of bullshit, you'd also throw them in a loony bin. I mean, if he just gave it a think for 5 minutes, he'd realize that he just needs to keep it simple. Just say some Buddhist monks found me in the mountains and I finally earned enough money and got their permission to leave, and now I'm back here in New York. Oh, and you know those really specific facts that would prove my identity, like the M&M sorting and the pot I made you? I'll tell you all that as well. But instead he spends 3 episodes just saying, "I'm Danny Rand," and they ask, "How can we believe you?" And he goes, "You should know I'm Danny Rand." Like, come on, man. Anyway, so the whole thread of those first 4 episodes is all about Danny being recognized and finally working to get his company back. But when he does get it back, he doesn't give a shit about it. So not only did we waste all this time getting a company back that he doesn't even care about, we also continue wasting time with corporate matters, even though Danny doesn't give a shit about it. How can you expect your audience to care about such a major portion of the story if your main character doesn't even care about it? And the thing is, there were plenty of ways they could have kept Danny interested in the Rand Corporation, even if he wasn't too interested in money or business. And that's because the Hand have infested the Rand Corporation, and they're using it to smuggle their drugs and do all their nefarious stuff around New York. There'd be plenty of ways to make the conflicts overlap, creating a struggle where Danny has to beat the Hand both as the superhero Iron Fist and the board member Danny Rand. Because as it stands, he doesn't seem to give a shit about the company. So why does he even care when Harold Meacham takes it over in the finale, and why should we as an audience care? And speaking of Harold Meacham, 2. Switch the final villains around. The final battle of the Iron Fist series has to be against the Hand. They're the mortal enemy of the Iron Fist, and they're far less predictable than the Harold Meacham character. I mean, Harold is a trope that's been around since Hamlet. He's the jealous uncle who kills the father so he can take over the kingdom. The only really interesting part about the character is how his decisions affect his 2 kids, Joy and Ward. Over the course of the series, we see Ward go from outright villain to addict in need of help, to ally to Danny Rand. And then we see Joy effectively go on the opposite arc. She goes from Danny's greatest ally to a setup for being a villain next season. I think something that would have been a lot more interesting would be to have Harold Meacham and the audience believe that he was the big bad behind all of this. He was the guy controlling the Hand and corrupting Rand from the inside, and when he takes it over in the episode before the finale, you get this big climax of we're finally taking down the bad guy. But then it's revealed that the Hand were manipulating him the whole time, and when Danny goes to confront Harold, the Hand kill him, and then they pin the murder on Danny, and they take over the company. The Rand Corporation is now in full control by the Hand. This means that in the finale, we'd see Danny fighting against the Hand after already being emotionally exhausted from his Harold Meacham confrontation, as he's trying to clear his name and get his company back. And I think that would have been a much more compelling finale, and it would have set up future confrontations with the Hand in a really compelling way. 3. More Defenders. Okay, we fixed it up so we're wasting less time in the first few episodes, and the Hand are now the main villains of the season. And really, it's ludicrous now, and it was ludicrous in the season, that they were fighting the Hand and Claire Temple was there, but she was like, "I know a dude who hates the Hand and also fights them. It's Daredevil. He lives 2 blocks away. But we won't call him. Because fuck you." Now, Defenders is only gonna be 8 episodes long, and given how fast these Netflix shows move, it probably means they're gonna spend the first 3 or 4 episodes really taking a long time setting up the team. That, or they'll find some super contrived way to do it all in the first episode. But Danny Rand is actually the money man behind that superhero team. He's their Tony Stark. I guess if you have iron in your superhero name, it means you're rich. But that means this would have been the perfect series to lay the groundwork for the Defenders. And in our rewrite, after he has to fight Harold Meacham, he has to move on to the hand in the finale. But like he's weak from his fight, and Colleen is like, "No, don't, I love you, it's suicide, please don't do it." And then Claire goes, "I know a guy." Then in the final battle of the last episode, we get a team up, kind of like how the Punisher showed up at the end of Daredevil Season 2. After the fight, we get a scene with the two heroes being like, "Well, we sure beat them this time, but they'll be back for round 2. And Danny says, "Gee whiz, defense lawyer Matt Murdock. Maybe it's time you got that Luke Cage fella out of jail." And Matt says, "But why?" And then Danny turns right to the camera and says, "I've got an idea." 4. We gotta change that ending. What I just outlined is a fun ending that leads into the Defenders. What we actually got is a nonsense ending that sets up a second season of Iron Fist that I'm not even sure I want. So let's see. Kunlun has disappeared because Danny wasn't there to protect it, but that's what it's supposed to do anyway. It goes away for 10 years at a time. So it's not destroyed, it's just gone. It's done what we all think it's supposed to do. Also, we never saw any of the characters there, so why the hell would we give a crap? It's like when Bruce murders a bunch of ninjas at the start of Batman Begins. We don't care. He doesn't care. That's because they're not really characters. They're just boring story cliches that need to be written out of the story as fast as possible. But also, who knows? Like I said, Kunlun is supposed to disappear. Maybe all the monks just went on an interdimensional vacation. And that brings us to Davos, who in the end is working with the Hand in a twist that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, he was mad at Danny for leaving Kunlun, but he was still his friend. He still came to help him out. What really tipped him over the edge and made him super pissed was when Danny refused to kill members of the Hand, and especially that he was sleeping with one. So pretty much most of the reason he and Danny had a fight was because he thought Danny was too soft on the Hand. So why the fuck would he then go work with Madame Gao and the Hand? He hates Danny for being too nice to the Hand people, but then he joins the Hand? It makes absolutely no sense. And speaking of making no sense, how's about that Joy twist at the end as well? Joy Meacham hating Danny is also super contrived and bullshit. Over the course of the whole season, you see her want to believe in each member of a family. She wants to believe in Ward, she wants to believe in her dad, and she wants to believe in Danny. But in the last 2 episodes, she learns that her brother wants to murder her dad, and her dad wants to murder Danny. And her reaction to that is to hate Danny. The guy who has proved over and over again he doesn't have a mean bone in his body. It's total bullshit. And here again, she should also hate the Hand. They kept her dad away from her, they corrupted her company from the inside, and they indirectly got her brother hooked on drugs. But yeah, nah, I guess it makes sense that she'd work with them too. So yeah, just get rid of all of that crap. Tee us up for the Defenders, and move on. 5. Don't make Danny a whiny crybaby. Like seriously, don't call your series Iron Fist if halfway through the show you're gonna have a bunch of episodes where he has performance issues. I mean, I know it's 1 in 5 men, but it really shouldn't be this specific man. Especially because he starts the show seemingly a total master of Kung Fu and the Iron Fist. I mean, he easily beats Colleen when they spar, he flips over a car like it's nothing, he does a bunch of other cool shit. But then it's like the writers thought he got too powerful, so they turned him into a whiny crybaby when he found out his parents got murdered. And the big power reveal in the finale is that his Iron Fist can block bullets? That should have been in episode 1. But now, in our rewrite, because the Hand are the main bad guys, we can fix all that. Pretty much all these problems stem from the fact that he left Kunlun without completing his training or without having permission. So how about this? He does finish his training, and he does get permission. And he was guarding the pass like he was supposed to, but then one of the head monks finds out that the Hand is plotting something in New York. And so they send Danny to New York, even though they know this might leave Kunlun vulnerable. And so now Davos will be a character who's a lot more like Baron Mordo in Doctor Strange. He's a traditionalist, and he doesn't agree with his master's decision. So he eventually follows Danny so that they can defeat the Hand together and they can come back to guard the pass more quickly. This means that the main emotional conflict will center around the Rand Corporation and how under the Meachams it's become a corrupt organization. That way, Danny doesn't doubt himself as the Iron Fist, but rather he doubts himself as Danny Rand, the board member. He's a badass fighter, he's mastered the Iron Fist, but despite all that physical power, He feels helpless in the face of all the corporate power and corruption that the Hand have spread through Rand and New York. He questions whether New York is even worth saving, and whether he should just pack it all up and head back to Kunlun. But his love of Colleen and his partnership with Davos convinces him to stay and stick it out to the end. This way we still get a really interesting character arc, but we don't get the very, very tired trope of a depowered superhero. We still get what we came for. We get the Iron Fist. And now it's much more interesting if Kunlun is destroyed at the end, and we've set up that Davos didn't think the Masters should have sent Dany away. Now his whole family are dead because of it, and it's a much better explainer for why he'd forego the teachings of Kunlun and join the Hand. He doesn't really hate Dany, but he hates the almost religious organization and dogma that Dany represents. And, like we talked about earlier, if the Hand have framed Dany for Harold's murder, it's a much more believable reason why Joy would join Davos. And altogether, that means we get a much more satisfying ending, where all the character arcs kind of lead to this confrontation that we'll see play out in the next season. So that's how you patch up the Iron Fist. And if you have any suggestions or thoughts on how you'd fix up the show, let me know in the comments below. Iron Fist! This isn't really a script issue, but they really needed to film their action better. Quick cuts are pretty inexcusable when your sister show is Daredevil. Just fucking hold a shot for more than 5 seconds. Do it like this. Hiya! Hiya! Hua! Hiya! 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 Hua! See, that was better than all 13 of your episodes.